Stop and listen, because what the ancient Egyptians wrote about the soul was never meant to be read as mythology alone. These pages are revealing something far deeper: the process of spiritual transformation, the soul's passage through death, rebirth, and remembrance, and the sacred forms consciousness takes when it rises beyond fear. As I was studying these chapters from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, what struck me most is that this is not written like a story told about someone else. The soul itself is speaking. It declares, "I am the swallow, I am the hawk, I am the shining one." This is the voice of consciousness remembering its own divinity, and that is what makes these teachings so powerful even now. The text begins with the transformation into a swallow, and this symbolism is extraordinary. The swallow is not just a bird image, it is a form of movement between worlds. It represents the soul's ability to travel beyond physical limitation, to cross thresholds, to move between earth and sky, between the visible and the invisible. When the initiate says, "I am the swallow," what is being declared is freedom from confinement. This is the soul no longer bound by one state of being. It can move through gates, through hidden paths, through realms that ordinary sight cannot perceive. This is why these teachings still speak so deeply to spiritual awakening today, because there are moments in life when we too are between worlds, between who we were and who we are becoming. Then the text moves into one of the most sacred symbols in Egyptian wisdom, the hawk. The hawk is directly connected to Horus, the divine eye, elevated sight, kingship, and spiritual vision. To transform into a sacred hawk is to rise above the density of earthly fear and see from a higher plane. This is the soul reclaiming perspective. It is the consciousness that no longer sees only through pain, confusion, or limitation, but from above the storm. This is why the imagery of the hawk is so powerful. It is not merely flight, it is ascension of awareness. What becomes even more profound is when the text speaks of the golden hawk. Gold in ancient Egyptian symbolism is the metal of the sun, immortality, divine essence, and incorruptible truth. So when the initiate declares the transformation into a golden hawk, this is a resurrection image. This is the soul emerging, luminous, refined by the fire of initiation, reborn in light. The text describes rising from the chamber like a hawk from its egg, and that image carries the mystery of rebirth itself. The egg is the cosmic womb, the unseen place where transformation happens in silence before emergence. This is exactly how spiritual awakening often unfolds. There is first the dark chamber, the underworld, the shedding, and then suddenly something radiant breaks through. As I continued reading, what stood out over and over again was the language of passage doors opening, hidden ways being known, guardians standing at thresholds, the soul asking for the right to pass. This tells us something essential about ancient spiritual understanding. Transformation is not random. It requires recognition, remembrance, and alignment. The initiate must know who they are. They must speak from identity and truth. This is why the soul continually affirms itself with such power. I am one of the shining ones. I dwell in rays of light. I come forth by day. This is consciousness declaring itself awakened. That phrase, "I come forth by day," is one of the most striking lines in these teachings. To me, this is not only about the afterlife, it is also about awakening in this life. There are times when we walk through our own symbolic underworld through grief, endings, confusion, emotional darkness, the death of an identity, and then something within us begins to rise. We come forth by day, we emerge from shadow into awareness. The ancients understood this as a sacred process, not something to be feared. The repeated invocations of Horus, Osiris, Isis, Nut, and Seb are also deeply significant. The soul is not presented as separate from divine forces, but in relationship with them, even in identification with them. This reveals an ancient understanding that the human soul participates in the cosmic order. The initiate is not powerless. They speak as one who remembers their place in the divine architecture of existence. There is sovereignty here. There is spiritual authority. And then we come to the imagery of crowns, thrones, and rulership. These are not merely royal symbols, they are symbols of restored identity. The crown represents the return of sovereignty after the passage through fear and judgment. The soul reclaims its rightful place. Spiritually, this mirrors what so many people experience in their own healing journey. There comes a moment after the collapse, after the dark night, when you begin to reclaim your inner throne. You no longer hand your power to fear, to old wounds, or to the voices of limitation. So I want to ask you something. What part of you is being called to rise right now? What are you being asked to release so that the version of you who is ready for the next journey can emerge? If this message found you at the exact moment you needed it, let that be your sign that your soul is already moving through a threshold. Follow for more teachings on ancient wisdom, symbolism, and soul transformation. And if you are moving through a spiritual awakening, emotional heaviness, or a major life transition, I offer one-to-one soul guidance and intuitive sessions to help you navigate the deeper meaning of what your soul is revealing. Comment, rise, if this resonated, and let's open the conversation together.